Hey everybody, it's the Lazy-Eyed Modeler here in the Woody Workshop. It's time for an update. Haven't done anything in a little while, and mainly it's the same excuses I've been using since I've started these videos. It seems it's the weather. Last weekend we had a ton of snow which required cleaning, and as soon as we got that done we had a blizzard come through on Tuesday, so that required a ton of snow removal in the driveway after work each day. And then Thursday and Friday I spent time up on my roof shoveling snow off the roof. You know, it's getting heavy, and they've had a forecast for warm temperatures and rain, and just got to do what you have to do. And believe me, I'm not a fan of heights, at least not heights where I'm relying on my own sense of balance to stay up there. But anyway, we got a good 3/4 of the roof shoveled off. Would have gone a lot faster if I had a nice snow scoop, but after all the snow we've had in our region lately, there's not a snow scoop to be found in any store in a 20-mile radius, so had to do it with a shovel, and that took a lot of time, and I couldn't do the whole thing. Good news is there's enough off there that we can sleep safely at night, or with a feeling of security that the roof isn't going to fall in. And we did get the rain today, and I'm glad I got that done. And so as a result of all that, I mean, most days after work and cleaning snow, and definitely after being up on a roof, I've not done any model building. I've come out here a couple times and looked at it and thought about it, but I haven't done any building. So I'm afraid there's nothing to show you as far as progress, as far as the zombie hunter is concerned. I have parts, you know, off the trees, and I'm working on sanding it. Pardon me. The Phantom reissue, of course it's from the 70s, based on 70s molds, and there's a lot of flash and ejector pin marks and stuff that I'm trying to clean up, so that's kind of slowing things down a bit. And so I haven't done much in the way of scratch building or mocking up or anything like that yet. I hope to have some progress to show you soon. And definitely I gotta try to get into gear if I want to be included in that, potentially included in Dr. Cranky's zombie book. But if it doesn't happen, I'll share it here and elsewhere, and that'll be good enough. So anyway, I thought as a contribution for this time, I'd do something a little different. In my first or second video, I mentioned that I might do some styrene archaeology and some vintage reference material or teaching material, or whatever you want to call it. We all know about Dr. Cranky's book, and I've flashed it here a couple times before. But there were people that came before him. And I want to share a couple of the books that, when I sort of came back into the hobby after building models as a young lad and then getting married, and I never really lost interest, but I had stopped building. After I got married, I still had a bunch of models that I carted around when we moved, and I wanted to get back to building. And I happened to find, well, the first couple of books I happened to find I'll show you here today. Now keep in mind, this was back in the early 80s. I was married in 83, and I started picking up some of the stuff around then. And the books I'm going to show you are copyrighted, I believe, 78 and 81. So we're talking books that are kind of old, and the processes described are not what we'd use these days, but they were great finds for me at the time, and they still provide useful information now if you happen to see them on eBay or, you know, at a flea market or what have you. So I thought you might find this interesting, and well, we'll see how you like it. The first book I want to share with you is called The Complete Book of Model Car Building by Dennis Doty, or Dotty. I'm sorry, Dennis, I'm not sure if you ever see this, the complete or the correct pronunciation, but this is the book here. It's copyright, I believe. This one It's a first edition, first printing in 1981 by Tab Books. I've used this quite a bit in my early return back to model car building. I used it to pattern my spray booth, which is off to the side here. And I'll just tell you read quickly some of the contents of the book. Contents include a brief history of model car kits, which is very interesting in itself. Of course, tools, painting model cars, building and detailing model cars, customizing, making convertibles, metal models, miscellaneous tips, and displaying your models, such as in aquariums or cabinets. And then it has appendixes for sources, magazines, and books. It's 300 pages long, so it's quite thorough. And but we're used to these days, pardon me again, of like Dr. Cranky's book being all in color. Well, this one, totally black and white. Here, I'll show just an example in about the middle of the book here. It's all black and white. This instance, he's using a Dremel tool. Kind of interesting, the old controller for the Dremel tool there. Anyway, it was an excellent, for me at the time in the early 80s, an excellent source of information about building models. Because previous to that, well, pardon me, I had not been exposed to any information. Like, I never saw the model magazines that were around in the 60s when I was first building as a kid. And so some of the early model magazines I found just before I found these books, and these books were revelations to me, you know, and it really helped me see that what model building could be, and it was more than just slapping a kit together and throwing some paint on it, you know. And it was just incredible. For example, here in Painting Model Cars, it shows his paint booth. And that's what I use. I use this model for my paint booth. Now, I kind of screwed up and made mine a little too small, but it's in the space that I could use, and there's not a lot of room to maneuver and whatnot. If I could change that now, I would, but I don't see that happening. Anyway, back to the book. Talks about under miscellaneous, it talks about black washes and how to do white walls and tire lettering and adding spoilers and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not going to go on any more about that. If you see it, has good information in it, but like I say, and you know, a lot of the basics are covered as far as tools and all that type of thing, but paints and some of the processes, you know, obviously have changed over the years. He has a great section on customizing, and I guess this book was successful enough because later on it was broken down into a two-part series called Model Car Building by Dennis Doty, and this is called Getting Started. It's actually pretty much the first half of this book, but it doesn't have the customizing or I forget what the other, or making convertibles. There was another book, this sort of the second half, which I never did find, and it was it covered the more advanced. I think that might be what it was called, was advanced modeling or something. It covered customizing and making convertibles and other stuff like that. This one, which was copyright 1989, it covers the brief history of model car kits, tools, painting model cars, building and detailing model cars, metal models, miscellaneous tips, and again displaying the models, as well as sources and magazines. So anyway, if you see these two books, obviously they're not state-of-the-art or anything, but they are packed full of good basic information. If you can find them someplace, you might want to pick them up if you can pick them up for a reasonable price.